Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpachubhischa Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So today is September 24th, 2025 in Bahrain, and we're on part 3 of material spiritual balance. And here we're looking at the question, can I find time for a high quality relationship with Krishna? Can I find, whoa, that's like pushing me off the chair. Let's forget about this. Yeah. It's like I'm going to fall into the computer. Can I find time for, but thank you. Thank you for being thoughtful and considerate. We're going to try again. Can I find time for a high quality relationship with Krishna in a distracted life filled with so much to do? So we all know that it's best to do our spiritual practices early in the morning. One of the first things you learn when joining the Hare Krishna movement is that it's best to wake up early. There was about a year where I was studying Ayurveda, and there I learned that there's a certain time in the day when the 3 gunas are in equilibrium. And after that, sattva guna is active. And then once things really get going in the day, it's rajagun, and in the evening, it's tamagun. So just like driving here, we had some traffic. But if we were driving at 1 in the morning, there would be no traffic. So there are certain times we can perform Krishna Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti at any time. But sometimes of the day, there's less traffic in the modes. Please put your phones on silent. And if you are expecting a call from an important person, please put them on vibrate. So certain times, doing sadhana bhakti is easier. Like Ekadasi, it's easier. Festival days, it's easier. Early in the morning, it's easier. We're not going to be as distracted at 4 or 5 in the morning as we're going to be later in the day. And that's because of the situation of the gunas. So, for example, I've spent time at our temple in London, in Soho, right in central London. And the city is noisy and crowded and crazy until about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. And then it's quiet until about 5:30 or 6. So there's a little time when it's quiet. Why? Because if people are very much in tamagun or rajagun, they can't pull any energy from sattva. It's not their food, and they don't know what to do. As soon as sattva becomes active, then they have to go to sleep. They can't function. So I found that. Same thing when we lived a long time ago. We lived in New York. We were a couple blocks from the temple that used to be in Midtown Manhattan. So again, everything noisy, but we used to walk to Mangal Artik, and then it was quiet. Very, very few people. And then it becomes quickly noisy again. So this is a time when it's easier to meditate, it's easier to chant, it's easier to do worship, and we're not feeling the pressure of, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And many people know about this. I mean, not only do the devotees, but there are many like efficiency, productivity experts. They'll say you can do your most focused work at this time, even if they don't understand about the gunas. But we may have a difficult time taking advantage of this time. First of all, we may stay up too late. Right? Now, one reason why we may stay up too late It's called revenge bedtime procrastination. So if you don't give yourself any time in the day to do things that you personally really like to do, then what will happen is you'll try to steal time from your sleep at night. So if you find yourself being exhausted, it's time to go to bed, and you're staying up late unnecessarily, and you do this regularly, this may mean that you're not giving yourself enough time during the day to do something that you enjoy. Another problem is having to go to work very early in the morning. Some of us have jobs that start very early. When I was the assistant principal in a government school, I had to be at work by 7 in the morning. So, there's not that much time. I mean, I didn't want to wake up at 2. So there's not as much time when you have to be at work early. And if you have to be at work early, you may be having to prepare. And I see even many women, for example, who don't work, they're up early preparing for their husband and children to go to school and work. There's one family I regularly stay with where the wife is in the kitchen from 4 o'clock in the morning, making the children and the husband their, breakfast and lunch to take. So she's cooking 2 meals. She had 3 kids. So she was cooking 2 meals for 4 people, starting at 4 in the morning, and everybody had to leave at 6:15. So she didn't start her sadhana until 9, really, by the time she could just relax and so forth. So sometimes the morning is left with that. And sometimes we may have very demanding jobs with very long hours. I was talking to one devotee today who was telling me that he's worked jobs where they expect you to start at 7 and go until 9. Right? So we may have jobs like that. I was talking to one devotee in, I can't remember whether it was Dubai or Oman, and he said he worked in Saudi, and he said he's often still working at 1 in the morning. And I said, is that because of time zones, because you're dealing with people in other time zones? He says, no. In my job, they expect you to have that kind of commitment to work, that you're working till 1 in the morning. So then very, very difficult to have sadhana early in the morning. And, we may have jobs that are depleting us. We may just be exhausted. And we may have many demands from other things in our life. So many things to fix in the house, so many things to do to take care of the family. And these things never end, correct? They never end. So you have 3 things you fix in your house and something else breaks. Correct? Yes? Of course, that happens more in India. At least in America, you might go for 2 months, nothing breaks in your house. But in India, if you go for 2 weeks, nothing breaks in your house. That's very astonishing. But there's always something to do. You have to take care of the car. You have to take care of the house. You have to take care of the family. There's so many just demands of everyday life. And sometimes it feels like we have a to-do list with everything on it. Then we may be wasting a lot of time with modern entertainment. So in former times, every village there was entertainment in the evening. People would get together and hear the Ramayana, Mahabharata. So it's natural, it's very natural, that at the end of the day, of course, Tamagun is active, you don't have much energy. You've had an exhausting day, your mind is tired. You want to do something that's easy. Like I'm very conscious when I give classes like this on a workday night. People don't want to think too hard. If you ask people to think too hard, they won't like it. And the best classes to give on a workday evening are very entertaining ones. So I don't think this is such an entertaining one. But I have some classes that are very, very entertaining. There's music and all kinds of... So that's my preference for a weekday evening, because that's like all that we can handle. But because we don't have our villagers getting together and reading the Mahabharata, then we end up going to the computer, to the television, and wasting our time with garbage entertainment. Correct? I mean, not all entertainment on these things is garbage, but a lot of it is. And our whole life becomes consumed with this, and there's so many studies about how quickly they're changing the frames, and these movies and TV shows, computer games, they're designed to suck our attention away from what's really important in life. And so it may feel like this. How am I going to find time for Krishna? How am I going to find time for Krishna in a high quality way? Not just like we were asked, right? I think you were asking, we can read just to read. How can I find the time, the energy, the space to connect with Krishna in a high quality way? Not just to get my rounds done, but to chant with attention, with love. Not just to get my reading done, but to read with care. How am I going to find that kind of time to do my puja with attention, with care? All right. So we looked at the problem. Now we're going to start looking at solutions. So the first thing to think about is, how much time and energy am I spending on eating, sleeping, mating, and defending? Yes, we have to do those things. But am I putting like 90%, 95%? We talked yesterday about putting our money in the wrong bank account. So how much energy am I pouring into the upkeep of a body which is just going to be a pile of ashes? Again, am I so rushing through life that I'm just trying to squeeze Krishna consciousness in the cracks? Okay, I got a little bit of time now. Squeezing in. And as Jesus said, will we gain the world and lose our soul? So maybe we gain everything in the world, but maybe there's nothing for us. Now, a lot of times, devotees think that these are problems just for householders. That is not true. This problem applies equally to renunciates and those living in temple ashrams. And I've seen many times that when devotees live in a temple, there's also many strong, high-pressured expectations on their time. They're often in the kitchen or on the altar early in the morning. They can't start chanting their japa until 10 or 11 o'clock. And often they're just running around from one service to another, to another, to another, to another, to another. Right? Or, people like myself, we're always changing time zones. We're often, I had one time where when I left a place, it was going to be Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance day the next day. And when I arrived at my destination, it had been Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance day yesterday. So I never got to celebrate it at all. So, these kind of situations of time pressure and demands, it can happen to anyone. It happens equally to brahmacharis and sannyasis. It's just different kind of pressure. Okay, so I know it is a weekday evening, but I'm going to give you something to do. All right? So if you don't have any paper, I assume everybody has a phone? And you have like a note-taking app? Okay. So I'd like you to imagine that you're dead and your friends are writing your obituary. You all know what an obituary is? This is an obituary up on the screen. An obituary is where you summarize somebody's life. This is not a particularly interesting obituary, so I don't know why you're taking pictures of it. But this is a sample of an obituary of someone's life. So if you think about, just like if you're a very important person in the Hare Krishna movement, you might get a Back to Godhead article about your life. Well, it'll be 2,500 words. If you're a pretty important person in the Hare Krishna movement, you'll get about this much. You'll get a little box in Back to Godhead that has about this much in it. So your whole life, okay, got that? Your whole life is going to be just summarized like this. So I want you to right now pretend that you're one of your friends. You've died, you're one of your friends, and they're writing up a little obituary for like the temple newsletter or Back to God, okay? So I want you to right now take a few minutes. We're going to take about 5 minutes. Write your own obituary from the point of view of a friend. You can do it on your phone. Actually write it. Don't just think about it. I want you to write it. If you have paper and pencil, you can use that. If you don't, you have... Everyone has a phone, yes? Is there anybody who has no phone? Is there such a creature in 2025? Don't just sit there. I don't want you thinking about it. I want you writing it. Writing. Get out your phone or paper. Write. You. Get out your phone. Get out your phones. Or get out a paper. You also. You. Anybody who's just sitting there like this. Do you have a phone, sir? Do you have a phone? Yes. Write your obituary on your phone. You have no phone? No phone. Is there any paper here? We have some phoneless people. We have some people in the back that are just sitting there without doing anything. Another 3 minutes. Oh, you do have phones. So write on your phones. Not scrolling, writing. One more minute. Okay, so you wrote your obituary as if you died today from the point of view of a friend. Now you're going to do this again. If you were to die today, how would Krishna write your obituary? I want you to write it again. So you already wrote it like a friend would write it. How would Krishna write it? So again, about one paragraph. How would Krishna write your obituary if you were to die today? I'm going to take about 4 or 5 minutes. Please write it. Don't think about it. Write it. I want you to write it down. Actually write it. Do you have a phone? No phone. Did you get paper? Someone else need paper? Just walk around and see anyone who's just like staring off into space and give them a piece of paper. Any space starers? One more minute. So there's a nurse that worked in palliative care. Palliative care is what you do when people are terminally ill, when they're going to die from some disease, and you're giving them what we call comfort care. You're not trying to cure them anymore. There's no cure, but you're trying to keep them safe and comfortable. And there's one palliative care nurse who wrote down what were the top 5 things that people had regrets about when they were dying. So one of them is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not what others expected of me. And this was the most common regret of dying people. I wish I'd lived the life that I wanted to live and not just trying to please other people. That most people hadn't honored even half of the dreams and desires that they wanted to accomplish. The next most common regret was, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. So this nurse said that every single man that she took care of had this regret, and any woman who had a full working life also. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. People who'd missed their children's growing up, maybe they hadn't spent so much time with their spouse, and they deeply, deeply regretted spending so much time and energy on earning money. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. So many people regretted that in order just to keep peace, they had not really expressed their true feelings and desires, that they never became who they were capable of becoming. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I'd had more relationship with people that I loved and who loved me. And I wish I had let myself be happier. So this is a very common regret of the dying, where people realize at the end of their life that happiness is a choice, that I could have chosen to be happier, that people stayed stuck in patterns and habits. So I'd like you to think about right now, just for a moment, not to write this down unless you want to. You can write it down if you want to, but at least to think about it. So if tomorrow morning some doctor told you, all right, you're going to die in 2 weeks, you have a terminal illness, what would be your regrets? So again, you can write this down if you like, or just think about it. What would be your regrets? I'm going to show you a little video. I actually saw someone do this physically on stage, where it was very, very dramatic to see somebody do this with actual objects. So that's a little difficult for me to do. I'd have to bring sand and rocks in a container up onto the stage. I've often wondered if maybe I should do that sometime. So next best is I have a little video for you. Okay. So our time is limited. That's what's represented by the jar. And thinking about our choices, how we choose to fill our time. So this sand represents all the little phone calls, emails, all the little things that are really not that important. They don't have great consequences, but they take up a lot of our time. This is really visual, folks. If you're just listening to me, you're going to miss it. Then the next thing are the pebbles, and the pebbles represent things. They have small consequences if we don't get them done, but usually manageable things. So now we're going to put that in our time. All right, now we have the big rocks. So these are the really important things that are really consequential, and we're going to try to put them into our time. Uh-oh, we couldn't fit them all in. Okay, now we're going to try again. I'm going to put the big important things in first. Now we're going to put the little pebbles in. And then we're going to work about the other little inconsequential things. Look at that. Now we got everything in. Now you might say, well, even if I put Krishna first, I may not have time to get to everything. Then I'm going to ask you, what if we don't get everything done? Devotee just recently sent me a quote from a book he's reading, which I didn't put it into this presentation because I already gave you the slides and I knew that would mess it up. But it was saying that sometimes we have more to do than is physically possible to do. We have to let something go. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much energy. We're not going to be able to do everything. And the question is every single thing we have on our list of to-dos, is it actually important? Does it really need to be done? So I've asked this question all over the world. How many of you know all the names of your great-great-grandparents? Your great-great-grandparents. That would be your grandparents' grandparents. How many of you, anybody here, know all the names of their grandparents' grandparents? I've asked thousands of people, and I'd say it maybe a total of 10 people in asking this question for 20 years know all the names of their great-great-grandparents. Some people know one or two names. That means our great-great-grandchildren will not know our names. That's the grandchildren of our grandchildren. So like right now, I have children of grandchildren. They're right now 5 and 7 years old, Nasinga and Avimanyu, and I'm now 70 years old. So it's possible that they could marry and have children while I'm still alive. That's possible. If I live into my 90s and they get married pretty young and have children pretty young, I might live to see great-great-grandchildren. But I would most likely die when they were very small. Correct? I'm not going to live to see great-great-grandchildren get to be like 10 or 12 years old. So they wouldn't know me personally. And I have a lot of other grandchildren, and none of them are even married. So by the time they have children that have children, I definitely am not going to be on this planet anymore. And I had a situation, I remember one of my grandsons asking me, "Grandma, what's your mother's name again?" If our own family, in just a couple generations, is not going to know our name, then who else is going to know our name? Practically nobody. Our own family's not going to know. What to speak of what we did? And we have so many important things to do. Every day, so many important things to do. But does anybody really care? Nobody. Even our own family doesn't care. You know, if I called any member of my family and said, "I want to tell you everything I did today," they'd be bored to death. But we're giving so much more importance to all these things rather than our spiritual life. So Srila Prabhupada says we should work a maximum of 8 hours a day. It's a very important principle. The Ishopanishad says, "Isyavashamidam sarvam," that we should be satisfied with our quota. Our quota is what we can earn in an honest day's work. What can I earn by working according to my nature, doing something that's honest and ethical in a reasonable amount of time? That's my quota. So to be satisfied with that. The research shows that most people always want at least 10% more money than they have. Even the richest people in the world are always trying to get more money. Why? Why does Jeff Bezos need any more money? So my point is, no matter how much we have, we're always going to think, "Oh, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more." Better to live simply within your means and have time for your spirituality. Now, one clue also is to try to manage our energy instead of trying to manage our time. So in the 1980s, when I first became in charge of a Gurukula, I attended a professional training seminar about managing energy instead of time, which completely revolutionized how I dealt with my life and enabled me to have good sadhana, take care of my husband, take care of our 3 kids, take care of the home, take care of our deities, and run a school. Because I wasn't trying to manage time. Instead, I was managing energy. And no matter how much explanation I give at the end of the class, somebody will say, how do you do that? So I'm going to do my best to explain it. So if you can think about how much energy we have in a day. Now, someone in their 20s is going to have more energy than I have in a day. But how much energy do you have in a day? And then apportion that mentally to different areas of your life. One way to think of it would be like money. So suppose you were budgeting your money. You're making a certain amount of money, and you say, well, every month I can spend this much on food, and this much on rent or mortgage, and this much on clothes, right? And let's say that you got paid in cash, okay? And that you had little envelopes, and one envelope was for clothes, and one was for food, and one was for like that. And you took this money and you put it in the different envelopes and you labeled it. So then you could be peaceful. When you're buying food, you know, I have this money in this envelope for food, and I can spend by the end of the month all the money in this envelope for food, and I'm not going to have to worry whether or not I'm going to have money left for something else. So if it's a sense you get about it. Okay, I have this much energy for cooking. What can I cook using just that much energy? So I'm going to use 100% of the energy I've allocated for that. I have energy allocated for being with my family, taking care of my children. I'm going to give 100% of that. And I have energy set aside for my sadhana. This is energy for my japa, for my puja, and I know I can give that much energy. One thing I notice with this is, for example, let's say I still have japa to finish later in the day. I'll notice that I have more energy later in the day on those days, because what I've been doing is I've been reserving. I've made sure I didn't spend all my energy on other things, so I had something left over that I needed to give to Krishna. This is a book that I just recommend to everybody, and it's really about managing energy. How do you manage energy? Now, Krishna talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 6. One who's tempered in eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all pains by practice of the yoga system. So a little bit of some hints from this book is the authors talk about 4 kinds of energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and that these relate with one another. And they make the point that most people in modern society aren't actually getting exercise spiritually or socially, and are being drained mentally and intellectually, so that people are off balance in their energies. And I really like kind of their analysis: to be physically energized, emotionally connected, mentally focused, and spiritually aligned with a purpose beyond our immediate interest. So most people don't get enough physical exercise, they don't get enough spiritual exercise, and they're maxed out socially and emotionally. I also really like their point is that we're supposed to, in order to get more energy, we have to use it. The more I engage in Krishna consciousness, the more spiritual energy I'm going to have. But you don't push so much that you deplete yourself, and you have time for recovery. It's very interesting. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Devotion about over-endeavor. He said, don't take on more spiritual practices than you can maintain. And we see that. You know, people will try to do so much that then they just become exhausted. This is true if physically, it's true mentally, it's true emotionally, but it's also true in our spiritual practices. At one point, Srila Prabhupada wasn't translating, and the devotees said, Prabhupada, why aren't you translating? Prabhupada said, for everything, there's periods of activity and there's periods of rest. So in order to maintain peak energy, we have to have energy in all these areas, and they have to be like a wave. So we want to push ourselves to expand, at the same time give ourselves time to recover. Push ourselves to expand, give ourselves time to recover. So like for work, optimally you work for 90 to 120 minutes, and then you have some recovery time. Like if I'm teaching long classes, I always make sure there's a break. And Prabhupada said that. He said, make sure if you're teaching long classes, you have some break time, you have some recovery time. All right, how we're going to schedule our sadhana. I find many times devotees think that in their own homes they should schedule sadhana like a brahmachari living in an ashram. But that doesn't work. You know, you can't necessarily do sadhana from 4:30 to 8:30 every morning, as is done in most of our temples. Srila Prabhupada said that when he was a grihasta, we're quoting Srila Prabhupada, he said, I would chant 4 rounds before each meal and 4 rounds before retiring in the evening. In this way, 16 rounds could be chanted without difficulty. He laughed and said, if you don't take prasadam before chanting your 4 rounds, then you will be sure to get them chanted. Now, I've often recommended this kind of thing as far as reading. I said, have Srila Prabhupada's books on your phone. Everybody's got a phone. Have Prabhupada's books on your phone. And before your meals, read one screen. Also, one can get creative. You can get now all of Srila Prabhupada's books and many of the books of our acharyas as audiobooks. Now, some people say, well, you have to read the books, you can't hear them. And I say, well, you know, before 1440, there was no printing press, and everybody was just hearing books. Practically nobody was reading them. The books were handwritten. Most people didn't even have a book in their house to read with their eyes, which is why you find the Shastra has emphasis on hearing Shastra rather than reading Shastra. So people have said to me, are audiobooks real books? I'm like, yeah, actually they were the real books. You can listen to audiobooks in the car, on the bus, while you're taking a shower in the morning. So have some creative way. What's going to work for me? Prabhupada would say, you know, householders, they can get together in the morning and have kirtan reading, or in the evening. What's going to work with your life? And this may change over the course of your life. So how the best way, the best time, the best way to do your sadhana may be different when you're 20 than when you're 40. Your life situation will change. And you can't just copy what someone else does. I'm convinced that one of the most damaging things that happens in our Hare Krishna movement is that somebody will come and tell you how to chant japa or how to read the books, and everyone thinks that's the right way to do it. And everyone has to do it that way. Just recently, I had someone say to me, Urmila, how do you study Prabhupada's books? And I said, why are you asking me this question? He said, well, I want to know whether or not I'm doing it right. And I said, well, my way of studying might not be right for you. You have to do what's going to work for you in your life, with your mentality, with your personality. I remember hearing this one devotee saying, if you're not sitting down without moving for the full 16 rounds, then they're no good. And I thought, suppose you're a parent with a very young child, then your child will be dead very soon. You know, I can't move. I'm sorry, you're holding a knife, but I can't get out of my, it's ridiculous. So, but I've heard this kind of thing many, many times. Somebody saying, this is the way. And I'm thinking, but Lord Chaitanya said there wasn't any hard and fast ways. So you have to take what works for you, not just what works for someone else or what worked for you 5 years ago. Then another very important thing, in addition to our basic sadhana, is that if we really want regular high-quality time with Krishna, Prabhupada says that we should engage in the practice of Krishna consciousness according to our taste and strength. So Prabhupada writes, according to the regulated principles, there are 9 departmental activities, And one should, that's hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet, becoming the friend, surrendering. There are 9 departmental activities, and one should specifically engage himself in the type of devotional service for which he has a natural aptitude. For example, one person may have a particular interest in hearing, another may have a particular interest in chanting, and another may have a particular interest in serving in the temple. So these, or any of the other 6 different types of devotional service, remembering, serving, praying, engaging in some particular service, being in a friendly relationship, or offering everything in one's possession, should be executed in full earnestness. So the point is, if you want to have a high-quality relationship with Krishna, that's going to be doing on a regular, if you can, daily basis, the particular types of service that you particularly enjoy. And that's going to be different from one person to another, and it may also be different over the span of your life. So maybe one person really enjoys making garlands, maybe another person really enjoys studying the Sanskrit verses, maybe, we all have our different nature and our different proclivities. Do some regular service that you will enjoy, and that will enliven your whole sadhana. Prabhupada says, finishes the section, he says, in this way, everyone should act according to their particular taste. This is from Brihad Bhagavatamrita 2.3.152. Whatever the devotional method by which a person with true spiritual taste feels satisfaction and complete joy, that is the method saintly authorities deem most excellent and effective for that person. It is not only the best of methods, but the very aim of his endeavor. This is from Srila Sanatana Goswami. So think for a minute, what do I find most tasty? What is it in bhakti that I find most relishable? Going to kirtan, singing bhajans, chanting japa, reading the shastra, discussing the shastra, dressing the deities, doing some particular type of any other type of service. Do I particularly like cooking? What is it that really connects me with Krishna? And to make sure to do that regularly. Okay? So I want to close by asking each of you to take another couple minutes, and I'd like you to write this down. To write down some plan that you could do starting tomorrow to increase the quality and or quantity of your regular daily relationship with Krishna. Now, this needs to be something that's within your control. I had one devotee talking to me the other day about how the only way for him to be Krishna conscious was to change the way his wife was behaving. And I said, Prabhu, I can't help you with that. I said, if your wife wants to talk to me, that's fine. But if you're talking to me, I can't help you to make your wife be a different kind of person. I said, what would you like to do? Well, what I'd like to do is have my wife do this. It took like 3 times of going through this. So it should be something that you can do, not something your husband's going to do, your wife's going to do, your boss is going to do, your kid's going to do. Something you can do that's under your control. Make it something that we say in America, you get a big bang for your buck. Buck means $1. Something small that will have a big effect. Often we think that to have a big effect, I have to make a big change. That is not true. Sometimes, but not always. Think about 2 parallel lines. If one of them deviates 1 millimeter, pretty soon it's going to be all the way over there. So one example I always like to give is I challenged people to do this many, many years ago. I was giving a class about our relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And I said, what's one thing you could do, simple thing, that would make a big difference. And what I decided for myself, and I mentioned this also yesterday, is that I decided to really try to meditate on Prabhupada's pranam mantras whenever I was offering obeisances. How much more time did that take me in a day? Minuscule. Maybe it meant I said the pranam mantras a little bit more slowly. So perhaps it was an extra 3 minutes of my day. But the effect on my consciousness was very large. It didn't have a 2-minute effect on my consciousness. It had a very big effect. Something I've started to do recently was one friend of mine was asking me about prayers we say before prasadam, and saying, okay, the prayer we say, Saira Vijaja, was written by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. And this person said, what prayers were they saying in Mahaprabhu's time? Obviously, they weren't saying Bhaktivinoda's prayer because he hadn't written it yet. So what were they saying? I thought, oh, that's a very interesting question. And it was like a little group discussion on a WhatsApp group, and different people were talking about, well, what prayers could we say? I know my godbrother Vaiseshika Prabhu likes to say Bhagavad Gita 265 because it has the words Bhagavat Prasad, although I have pointed out to him that that verse has absolutely nothing to do with samosas. So in our group, we were looking through different verses, and I haven't memorized the Sanskrit yet. I don't know if I ever will, but maybe someday I would like to. It's where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's taking prasadam, and he's glorifying the prasadam. And he says that the Lord's mouth has touched this prasadam, and the Lord's qualities have gone into the food, so that the food is now fully saturated with Krishna's qualities, which is very similar to what Srila Prabhupada told my father in 1974, where my father said, why are you anxious to give people your food? And Prabhupada said, do you believe in infection? And my father said, yes. And Prabhupada said, well, if you eat the food of a sick person, you will get their disease. And if you eat the food that Krishna is eaten, you'll be infected with Krishna's disease. So ever since this discussion in the WhatsApp group, before I take prasadam, I'm now meditating. I'm meditating on the English of that verse in the CC. As I say, at a certain point, maybe I will memorize the Sanskrit when I have time. Just, Krishna, you've touched this food, and your qualities are now permeating the food. As I eat it, please let your transcendental qualities permeate me. Let it permeate my body, my mind, and my very self. And then I also take a minute to meditate on the physicality of the food, something we'll talk about more tomorrow, how the food that we're eating is a transformation of sunlight. Plants produce food by eating the light of the sun. And Krishna says, I am the light of the sun. The plants are also getting the water. I am the taste of water. And the fragrance of the earth. I am the fragrance of the earth. So all the elements in the plant food that we're eating is the light of the sun, the taste of water, and the fragrance of the earth. So I'm also eating Krishna just in food. And then I meditate on how Krishna says, I join with the air of life to move the food through your body, and I am the power of digestion, the fire of digestion. Now, all of that takes me, again, 1 or 2 minutes. That before I eat, my dear Lord, it's your qualities that have touched, that your lips have touched this prasadam. Please infuse me with your qualities. Let your qualities infuse every aspect of my being as I eat. What I'm eating is sunlight. You are the light of the sun, the taste of water, the fragrance of the earth. Let your energy as the fire of digestion fill my body with spiritual and physical health. How long did that take for me to say that? A minute? And thinking it is faster. Huge change in the quality of my life. And then I also really try, when I'm eating, to eat meditatively. To pay attention if I'm actually eating Krishna's qualities in the food, if I'm actually eating the light of the sun and the taste of water and the fragrance of the earth, if I'm really eating Krishna, let me pay attention as I'm eating to the taste, to the texture, to the fragrance. that I'm actually honoring. I heard Radhanath Swami one time say we should honor prasadam, not just eat it. Again, this means I'm going to eat a little bit more slowly. Okay, maybe it's going to take me 5 minutes more to eat. But this changes the whole quality of my relationship with Krishna. Is that a big change in my life? No, it's a very, very small change. Doesn't take a lot of effort, doesn't take a lot of energy, but the effect in my life is huge. I can give you a few more examples as I work on being grateful. Remembering that Krishna is my abilities. Anything I have the ability to do, to just pause mentally for a moment here and there. Krishna, you're my ability. A few months ago, I broke my right hand. And I'm looking at people using their hands thinking they're just using them thoughtlessly. They have no idea what it's like to have two working hands. So just to have that awareness. So none of these examples may be relevant to you. Maybe for you it's, I'm going to make sure my phone's on the other side of the room when I chant my japa. Maybe for what's relevant to you is I'm going to read one screen of Bhagavad Gita every day before lunch. I don't know what it's going to be for you. But pick something, one thing, just one thing, please, one thing. Pick something that is completely under your control. It's not dependent on anybody else. That's very small, that will have a large effect on you, and that you're definitely going to do. Please don't say, I'm going to start chanting 120 rounds a day, and I'm only going to sleep for 2 hours, and I'm going to read a chapter of Bhagavad Gita before I go to bed every night. You know, and then you'll never do any of it, and then you'll just be upset with yourself. Is that clear? Okay? So we're going to just take about 1 minute, and I'd like you to write this down. Write it down. If you have your phone out, stop scrolling and answering messages, and write this down. Something that you can do starting tomorrow, that you will definitely do. And if you feel comfortable and if it's appropriate, please share this with a neighbor. If it's something very personal or very embarrassing, then don't. But if it's something that you feel comfortable, please share it with a neighbor. Please tell the person next to you what you have chosen, if you're comfortable doing that. If you're not, that's fine. We're much, much more likely to do something if we've told somebody about it. So again, once you've written that down, if you're comfortable, please share that with your neighbor. I was once in a seminar where the speaker asked us to write something down and promised us it would be private and then had us get into groups to share it. I said, that's not fair. Again, if it's something that's not too personal or embarrassing, please share it with somebody. Did you write something down? You're just like the tech guy, huh? You're a person too, you know, I mean, like. You matter. You're important. Okay, any questions, comments, corrections, additions, subtractions? One thing is tomorrow's class is going to be someplace else. Tomorrow's class is going to be in Gopal Krishna Temple. In where? Kanugad. Are you also going to broadcast that or no? Okay. So you won't stream it live. They don't have Wi-Fi there, okay. So you wanted to do something now with somebody, right? Why don't we do that? All right, so I'm going to end here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anything good in this presentation is from Prabhupada and our acharyas and Shastra. Anything bad is from me. So with the bad things, please either correct them or ignore them, and I hope you can take the good. But right now we have a little special thing happening. Hare Krishna. Sure.
Hare Krishna, I request Grace Janpriya Gopal Das Prabhuji and Rohit Singh Mataji, please come to stage and receive this gift from Mataji.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is beautiful. ISKCON Bahrain, this memento is presented to His Grace Venupriya Gopal Das, Her Grace Rohini Sevani Devi Dasi, by the management and congregational devotees for their contribution to ISKCON Balaram Desh in the service of the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. ISKCON Balaram Desh, Kingdom of Bahrain, September 2025.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
All the best to you in your next phase of life. Thank you for all your service here for Srila Prabhupada, and may you go on serving eternally.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.